So we're joined here on Next by Republican Congressman Mike Coffman of Aurora, coming off of his lively town hall meeting last night. There were times when you seemed to enjoy sparring with the critics at this long-awaited town hall. Does it make you want to hold more of them?
You know, I think that I think that's one of the good venues to communicate with people. I think the other I think the teletown halls are good, but yeah, there's something about an in-person town hall that you can't duplicate anywhere else, and so certainly there's going to be more.
Okay, another one by the end of the year?
I expect another one by the end of the year.
All right, very good. The Colorado Republican Party said that the voters in the town hall last night who were booing you were fake protesters. Do you think they're fake protesters?
You know, I really don't. You know, God bless the Republican Party for what it does, but I don't. The fact is that they had to register for the event because we wanted to make sure that the people were from the district. And so I thought it was a great event. I thought it was very lively. I felt they were very committed to their issues. Granted, the audience leaned left relative to the district, but they're the people that are most concerned with potential changes mostly to Medicaid. And so I respect the fact that you know, that they were there, that they were voicing their views, and they were not shy about it.
Mm-hmm. You got intelligent, thoughtful questions last night. I mean, they weren't just out there to throw barbs. I felt like you got solid questions that challenged where you stood on things. More broadly speaking, clearly there are groups of voters who get organized to go to these events to make noise, and your opponents are going to make hay out of that. And conservatives did the same thing when Obamacare was coming down the pike a couple of years ago. Do you wish that folks in your party would move past the idea of calling them fake or paid and just engage?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the fact is that I think that that the reality is that sure there are some organizers there, but the vast majority of these people are simply committed activists in their own right, and they are not paid. They are simply this is where their heart is, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and certainly anybody who was there last night who was also an organizer was also a voter, a constituent of yours.
Absolutely.
All right, let's delve into some of the issues that were raised at the town hall last night.
Sure.
You said that you're heading in the direction of supporting an independent commission to investigate Russia's meddling in the election. Why not just come out and say it? Say the process is too political, we need an independent commission.
There are different issues. I think Russians meddling in the election has really been investigated. I think there are a couple questions. I think number one is, were there violations of law in terms of these leaks, in terms of unmasking? Was there collusion from the Trump campaign, you know, to the Russian government? And so, to me, those are the real. I think the Russian meddling part has been resolved.
Okay.
I think we understand that. In fact, the Obama administration, before they left office, did a full investigation, and members of Congress, myself included, were briefed about Russian interference, which was predominantly the hacking of the DNC and the Clinton campaign. Podesta's email account.
So you have these two claims being made by partisans on each side, which is the idea of Democrats accusing Trump of collusion, and you have folks in the administration who are accusing Obama administration officials of improperly leaking this information.
Sure.
Why not do the independent panel to investigate that?
Utilizing the machinery of the intelligence community to spy on the transition team. So the FBI has it now. I've got some questions about Director Comey, and whether or not I can tell you where I don't have confidence, certainly in the House Intelligence Committee, to do it. And so, I'm leaning in that direction. I'm not quite there yet.
What are you waiting for?
Well, I want to wait to see the scope of what the FBI is looking at. Are they looking at both sides of the equation? If they're not looking at both, because, you know, were they complicit? You know, generally, people look down on independent counsels, because once they get going, now you have to have a criminal allegation to get them going, they can go in any direction. This may be the one time where there are so many different things going on that may be the best venue to do this. So I've got to go, when I go back to DC, I'll assess my confidence in the FBI in terms of their ability to do the investigation from a criminal standpoint. And if it's not there, then that's the only route we can go.
Have you gotten any pushback from Republicans or from the Trump administration on your call for White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer to go?
You know, not yet. I expect to. I mean, I suppose there may be, but I just think that it's in not just the best interest of the country, but in terms of serving this president. Sean Spicer is not able to do his job. I mean, Sean Spicer, you know, I think he misspoke about, you know, drawing a red line with barrel bombs and not simply the chemical weapons. He dramatically misspoke when it came to Assad and comparing, you know, to Nazi Germany and forgetting 6 million Jews that were killed, you know, using lethal chemicals. And so I just think that again, I think that he's not serving this president, and I think he needs to step aside.
By that same line, though, that he's inartfully using words in ways that wound people and distort the historical record and everything else, doesn't President Trump do the exact same thing?
Well, but you don't want your communications director to be the story. I mean, I think, let me tell you, I think the president's getting better. But you know, what you don't want is to have to clean up what a spokesman does. And that's what's happening with Sean. When the spokesman becomes the story, that's the problem.
Another issue that came up last night. Crowd booed pretty loudly when you insisted that Medicaid costs need to be split 50-50 with the states. How in the world would Colorado afford funding 50% of Medicaid with all the constitutional entanglements and spending limits that we have?
Well, my idea is a phase-in, and so let's go to 2020. All of our other Medicaid programs had a 50-50 split. The Medicaid expansion is unique in that, and it is for able-bodied adults who are about up to 138% of the poverty line who don't have dependent children. And so in looking at that population, and that's really been the expansion in coverage under the Affordable Care Act. It is definitely attributing to our deficit in the federal government. But why should we, when we match 50% for children, when we match 50% for disabled, when the federal government matches 50% for elderly and skilled nursing, why do we match what will in 2020 will be 90% for able-bodied adults without dependents? It should be 50-50. So go to 2020 at the split that we're at now. After 2020, then all those that are currently on at that point, leave them at the 90-10 split. But for new enrollees, they should be at 50-50. And so it would be a gradual phase-in, but I think it needs to occur.
A viewer named Robert Cooley emailed asking us to follow up on the Republican health care proposals and whether you feel like they absolutely need to preserve Obamacare's pre-existing conditions rule and then also maximum lifetime caps, those two things. Would you insist on those?
I think both.
Yeah.
Certainly pre-existing conditions, I think is vitally important. And I think the lifetime caps is important too.
Required or just important?
No, required. These were in, and then the question is, should they be devolved and enforced by states or left in the federal government? Such as the essential health benefits are in the Affordable Care Act, but Colorado went ahead and put all of them in state law. You know, I think that, but I think the fact is that certainly in pre-existing conditions have to be anything in any proposal going forward. I mean, I think that's absolutely important. I think that when we talk about when the president says it's imploding, what he's really referring to is a part that is the individual insurance market. In particular, is the health insurance exchanges,
the state exchanges, which the president has said, let them burn.
I disagree with that. I mean, I really think that we have a responsibility I think the president's view is it will bring Democrats, they will come around and then we'll have a bipartisan solution to fix it. I don't think they'll come around, quite frankly. I think that they want a single, what I heard last night.
They want single payer. Your crowd wants single payer.
The crowd wants a single payer, which I don't support. But that I think that they would see it as an opportunity for a government solution like a single payer system, as opposed to a hybrid or a private sector leaning solution. And so I think we need to fix it, and I think we need to fix it now.
As for that fix, you were the only member of the Colorado congressional delegation to go on record supporting the Republican plan to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. We've covered Congressman Ken Buck's attempt to rewrite history. You were the sole guy. Did you get hung out to dry by your party leadership?
No, I didn't. I mean, it was my decision to be there, to be out front. I think what other members were saying is, you know, as they were walking to the House floor, saying, "Oh, I don't know how I'm going to vote." I think they knew. Look, it was to get it over to the Senate, and by and large, I agree with it. There were things that were thrown in at the last minute that I think actually, particularly seniors from age 50 to 64, that actually helped. Another $85 billion was placed in to increase the subsidies for them on the insurance exchanges. So I think that we need to get something over for the Senate. I have no idea. And there are discussions in Washington where it seems to be moving, and so when I go back and I look at what's there, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to support it. There are three issues that are important to me. I think the Medicaid issue that I discussed with you, not without controversy, but I think fiscally responsible, Medicaid expansion, and then fixing that individual insurance market, and then preserving pre-existing conditions.
Last two questions. Broadly speaking, you faced a room full of folks that if they were representative of your district as a whole, you would lose in a landslide. Clearly, they don't represent the district as a whole. It's a moderate district, third, a third, a third. But you were repeatedly challenged last night by people who said, you don't reflect our views. How do you, broadly speaking, gauge when the view of your district as a whole is beginning to change and when you're just listening to a very loud minority?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, whether or not they're the majority, I think their views are legitimate, and they're just very concerned about uncertainty, about change, and particularly, and I think in healthcare, predominantly on the Medicaid side. What do the changes in Medicaid mean? And so, so I get that. I'm having some additional meetings, I think 3 additional meetings on healthcare that stem from some of the Q&A that I had, where I think there was a family with a disabled child. I'll be meeting with an individual that had relatives that were veterans that were concerned about their health care. And I think another individual that was concerned about Medicaid changes that was an employee in skilled nursing. So those additional discussions I'll have. So I think it's always an ability for me to learn, but not to be, whether or not they're representative of the majority, is not to be dismissive. I think their views are important, and I'm glad they shared it with me last night.
But how do you determine when their views are the majority in your district?
Well, I mean, I think that what is important is that I listen to as many voices as I can and make a determination in terms of what is my philosophy and where is the district and where do the two intersect.
When you were asked about this last night, why don't you represent your district, you gave what I thought was a pretty flippant answer, and you said, well, I've won a couple of elections around here. Do you regret saying that? Yeah,
I kind of do. I mean, I think it was flippant. I think that what I was trying to project, and I did it poorly, was that that's a reflection of the fact that I have represented the district. But you should never reference an election as saying, you know, that is it. But I think in saying that, I think what I should have said is that I'm always out and listening to people in the district and do my best to reflect the majority of the district.
Final question for you. You have your first Democratic opponent for 2018 announced this week, a fellow combat vet, Jason Crow. He's an attorney from Denver. Do you think he's going to be more of a challenge to you than the Democrats that you've dispatched fairly easily in the last couple of cycles?
I don't know. I've never met him. I don't know him. He doesn't live in the district. I understand he's going to move into the district. My guess is he very well may have competition coming up, but I certainly respect his military service, and I appreciate that.
All right, Congressman Mike Coffman, thank you for your time. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
All right.